"Dad, you're too old to live alone anymore. The papers are already signed." Those were the last words my son Garrett spoke to me before abandoning me at Oakland Gardens nursing home with nothing but a suitcase and a lie about what's best for me. What Garrett didn't know as he walked away, already planning how to sell my house for quick cash, was that he had just committed the ultimate family betrayal against someone who owned the very building he was leaving me in. The look on his face when he discovered the property deed? Absolutely priceless. You won't believe how this entitled son thought he could steal his father's home and abandon him to die alone, only to learn that his helpless old dad was actually his new landlord, boss, and the person who would decide whether he ever saw a penny of inheritance again. But before I tell you how I completely destroyed Garrett's greedy plans and taught him the most expensive lesson of his life, smash that subscribe button. Because family betrayal consequences like this don't come around often. Now, let me take you back to when I first realized what kind of man I had raised. My name is Wellington, and I'm 72 years old. For the past 50 years, I built my life around family and community service. I raised Garrett as a single father after his mother died when he was 8, working 3 jobs to put him through college and medical school. I was proud when Garrett became a successful orthopedic surgeon. For years, our relationship felt strong. He'd visit monthly, bring his wife Autumn and their twin boys over for Sunday dinners, and we'd talk about everything from his practice to his investment portfolio. "Dad, you taught me everything I know about hard work and integrity," he'd say. "I want to make sure you're taken care of as you get older." What Garrett didn't know was that while I worked those 3 jobs to support him, I was also quietly building a real estate empire. I started with one small rental property in 1975, then reinvested every dollar of profit into more properties. By 2020, I owned 47 buildings across the county, including medical facilities, apartment complexes, and senior care properties. I lived modestly in the same house I bought in 1978, a simple 3-bedroom home that looked unremarkable from the outside. But that house sat on 12 acres of prime commercial real estate, and the retirement income Garrett thought came from Social Security actually came from millions in rental income. I kept my wealth private because I wanted to see who people really were when they thought I had nothing to offer but love and respect. For 40 years, that strategy worked perfectly. I saw genuine character in friends, romantic partners, and family members. Garrett seemed to love me for who I was, not what I owned. But over the past 2 years, something changed. It started with small comments about my outdated lifestyle. "Dad, you don't need to live so simply anymore. You've earned the right to enjoy retirement." Then came suggestions about downsizing and moving somewhere more appropriate for your age. "Wellington, this house is too big for one person," Autumn would say. "What if you fell down those stairs? What if you had a medical emergency?" I appreciated their concern, but I was in perfect health. I exercised daily, maintained my own property, and handled all my finances independently. There was no practical reason for me to change my living situation. But Garrett's visits became less about family time and more about evaluating my declining abilities and discussing long-term care planning. "Dad, we need to be realistic about your future," became his constant refrain. What I didn't realize was that Garrett wasn't planning for my care. He was planning for my assets. But Garrett was about to cross a line that would cost him everything. Have you ever had someone take advantage of your kindness while planning to betray you? Let me know in the comments. The betrayal came on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I was in my garden when Garrett arrived unannounced with Autumn and 2 men I didn't recognize. "Dad, we need to talk. This is Dr. Hammond and Attorney Brooks. They're here to help us make some important decisions about your future." I invited everyone inside, assuming this was some kind of routine consultation about healthcare or estate planning. Dr. Hammond spoke first. "Mr. Wellington, your son is concerned about your ability to live independently. He's described some incidents that suggest cognitive decline." "What incidents?" I asked, genuinely confused. Garrett pulled out a notebook and began reading. "Last month, you forgot our dinner appointment. 2 weeks ago, you called me asking about a bill you'd already paid. Yesterday, you couldn't remember what day it was when I called. Every single incident was either a lie or a gross mischaracterization of normal human behavior. I hadn't forgotten any dinner Garrett had canceled and was now claiming I'd been confused about the date. Based on these concerning patterns, Attorney Brooks interjected, "We prepared some paperwork to ensure your safety and security." He spread documents across my kitchen table. Power of attorney forms, medical decision-making authorizations, and at the bottom of the stack, admission papers for Oakland Gardens nursing home. "Garrett, what is this?" I asked, my voice steady but my heart racing. "Dad, you can't live alone anymore. We found you a beautiful place with 24-hour care, activities, and medical support. You'll be much happier there. And what happens to my house?" Garrett exchanged a look with Autumn. "We'll handle selling it and putting the proceeds toward your care costs. Don't worry about the details. That's why we're here." I looked at my son, the man I'd sacrificed everything to raise and educate, and saw a stranger. A greedy stranger who thought his aging father was too stupid to recognize a scam. "The papers are already signed by the facility," Dr. Hammond added. "We just need your signature to make the transition smooth." "And if I refuse?" "Dad," Autumn said with fake sweetness, "Dr. Hammond has evaluated your situation. If you're not competent to make these decisions yourself, the state will have to get involved. This way keeps everything in the family." It was a threat. Sign the papers and go quietly to the nursing home, or they'd have me declared mentally incompetent and take everything anyway. I looked at the admission papers for Oakland Gardens and almost smiled. What Garrett didn't know was that I had owned Oakland Gardens nursing home for 15 years. I signed the papers, not because I was intimidated or confused, but because I wanted to see exactly how far Garrett would go with his betrayal. Within 2 hours, I was sitting in a standard room at Oakland Gardens while Garrett drove away with my house keys and a smug expression. What he didn't know was that I was sitting in a facility I owned, surrounded by staff who reported directly to me, with complete surveillance footage of everything he'd just done. My first call was to Patricia, my property manager who had been running Oakland Gardens' day-to-day operations for 12 years. "Mr. Wellington, I heard you checked in as a resident. Should I assume this is related to family issues?" "Patricia, I need you to document everything about my admission today. Who filled out the paperwork, who claimed authority to place me here, and who signed as my responsible party." "Already done, sir. I've been running this facility long enough to recognize elder abuse when I see it. Your son claimed power of attorney over your health care and finances, but our records show no such legal documents were ever filed with the county." That was Garrett's first mistake. You can't just claim power of attorney. It has to be legally established and documented. Garrett had used fake documents and fraudulent medical evaluations to commit what the state would classify as elder abuse and kidnapping. My second call was to my attorney, Harrison Blackwood, who had been managing my legal affairs for 25 years. "Wellington, I just heard some disturbing news from Patricia. What's your situation?" "Harrison, I need you to document everything that happened today. I also need you to research exactly what happens to someone who attempts to steal real estate through elder abuse." "Already on it. I've been expecting this call ever since Garrett started asking questions about your estate planning 6 months ago." That revelation hit me hard. Harrison had seen this coming and tried to warn me subtly, but I've been too trusting of my own son to recognize the signs. Over the next week, I lived as a regular Oakland Gardens resident, while Harrison and Patricia built an unbreakable case against Garrett. The evidence was overwhelming. Fraudulent medical evaluations claiming cognitive decline that didn't exist. Forged power of attorney documents that were never legally filed. False statements to nursing home staff about my mental capacity. And security camera footage of Garrett discussing plans to flip the house quickly while abandoning me at the facility. But the most damning evidence came from Garrett himself. 3 days after placing me at Oakland Gardens, he called a real estate agent and scheduled an appointment to list my house for sale. He told the agent he had full authority to sell the property and wanted to move quickly before the market changes. Patricia recorded the entire conversation, which she was legally authorized to do since Garrett was attempting to defraud one of her facility's residents. By day 5, Garrett had already accepted an offer on the house and was planning to close within 2 weeks. He never visited me once during that time, never called to check on my well-being, and never responded to messages from Oakland Garden staff asking about my care preferences. He had abandoned his father to steal his house, and he thought he'd gotten away with it perfectly. By the time I was done gathering evidence, I had enough to send Garrett to prison for elder abuse and fraud. But that wasn't enough. I wanted him to realize exactly who he had betrayed. What would you have done at this point? Call the police immediately, or let him dig his hole deeper? Comment below. But that's not even the worst part. My plan was masterfully simple. Let Garrett complete his theft while I documented every illegal step, then reveal the truth at the moment of his greatest triumph. You see, after 50 years of building a real estate empire, I'd learned that criminals always make their biggest mistakes when they think they've won. Garrett needed to believe he had successfully stolen my house and abandoned me forever. So I played the part of the confused, abandoned old man perfectly. When Garrett finally visited Oakland Gardens after a week of silence, I greeted him like a grateful father rather than a betrayed victim. "Garrett, I'm so glad you came to see me. Everyone here is so nice, and the activities keep me busy." He barely made eye contact. "That's great, Dad. I'm glad you're adjusting well. I wanted to let you know that I've found a buyer for your house. The sale will help cover your care costs here." "How much did it sell for?" "Don't worry about the details, Dad. Just focus on getting comfortable in your new home." What Garrett didn't know was that Patricia was recording our conversation through the facility's standard security system, and Harrison was documenting every real estate transaction Garrett made using my supposedly abandoned property. The house sale closed 2 weeks later. Garrett walked away with $340,000 from the sale of my home, believing he had committed the perfect crime. That same day, Harrison filed a comprehensive lawsuit against Garrett for elder abuse, fraud, kidnapping, theft, and real estate fraud. But we didn't arrest him immediately. We wanted him to enjoy his stolen money first. For 1 month, Garrett lived like he'd won the lottery. He paid off his medical practice debt, bought Autumn a new luxury car, and put a down payment on a vacation home in Colorado. He even posted on social media about his investment success and smart financial planning, never mentioning that his windfall came from abandoning his father and stealing his house. But Harrison was building something much bigger than a simple fraud case. You see, when you own as much real estate as I do, you develop relationships with judges, prosecutors, district attorneys, and police commissioners. Not for corruption, but because property crimes and elder abuse cases cross their desks regularly. Judge Morrison, who had been handling elder abuse cases for 15 years, was personally offended by Garrett's actions. District Attorney Williams had seen too many families destroyed by greedy children stealing from aging parents. But the most important relationship was with Police Commissioner Torres, whose own father had been the victim of a similar scam 3 years earlier. "Wellington, this isn't just about your case," Commissioner Torres told me during a visit to Oakland Gardens. "We've been tracking a pattern of adult children using fake medical evaluations to steal from their parents. Your son's case could be the prosecution that stops this trend." That's when I realized my revenge could help protect other families from experiencing what Garrett had put me through. Harrison prepared arrest warrants, not just for Garrett, but for Dr. Hammond and Attorney Brooks, who had participated in creating fraudulent documents for multiple elder abuse cases across the state. But I wanted the arrest to happen at the perfect moment. You see, Garrett had scheduled a celebration dinner at the country club to announce his successful investment partnership that had generated the money for his recent purchases. He'd invited his medical colleagues, Autumn's family, and several prominent community members. What he was really celebrating was successfully abandoning his father and stealing his house. But what he didn't know was that he was about to celebrate in front of the very people who would witness his arrest for elder abuse. They thought they were dealing with a helpless old man who couldn't fight back. They were about to learn they had messed with someone who owned the nursing home, employed half the staff, and had enough evidence to destroy their lives completely. Little did they know, I was just getting started. The country club celebration was scheduled for Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. By 6:30, Garrett was standing at the bar, telling everyone who would listen about his brilliant investment strategy that had generated enough money to pay off debts and buy luxury items. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions to secure your family's future, he told Dr. Peterson from the hospital. My father is much happier in professional care, and managing his assets responsibly has created opportunities for everyone. What Garrett didn't know was that I was sitting in the country club's private dining room with Judge Morrison, District Attorney Williams, Commissioner Torres, and Harrison, watching the entire celebration on the club's security monitors. "Wellington, are you sure you want to do this publicly?" Judge Morrison asked. "We could handle the arrest more discreetly." "Your Honor," Garrett chose to celebrate elder abuse publicly. "I think the consequences should be equally public." At exactly 7:15, as Garrett was toasting his successful business partnership with champagne stolen from his father's house sale, Commissioner Torres and 4 detectives entered the main dining room. "Garrett Wellington, you're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, theft, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit real estate fraud." The handcuffs clicked shut around Garrett's wrists in front of 60 prominent community members, including his medical colleagues and Autumn's entire family. But that was just the beginning. Dr. Hammond and Attorney Brooks, Detective Martinez announced, "You're also under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder abuse and fraud through falsified medical and legal documents." The 3 men who had conspired to abandon me at Oakland Gardens were now handcuffed in front of everyone they'd invited to celebrate their success. Autumn started screaming, "This is a mistake. Wellington is senile. We did what was necessary to protect him." That's when I walked into the main dining room with Judge Morrison and District Attorney Williams. The room went completely silent. "Autumn," I said calmly, "I'd like you to meet my business partners. We've been documenting Garrett's elder abuse case for the past 6 weeks." Garrett's face went from confusion to horror to complete understanding within seconds. "Dad, you're supposed to be at Oakland Gardens." "I'm a resident at Oakland Gardens, Garrett. I'm also the owner of Oakland Gardens. I've been living in a facility I own while you celebrated stealing my house and abandoning me to die." The country club erupted in whispers and shocked conversations. Everyone now understood that they'd been celebrating with someone who had committed elder abuse against his own father. But the best part was yet to come. Detective Martinez opened a folder and began reading charges that carried potential sentences totaling 15 to 20 years in prison. Elder abuse was a felony. Real estate fraud was a felony. Conspiracy was a felony. Using fake documents was a felony. Furthermore, District Attorney Williams announced, "This investigation has uncovered similar elder abuse cases involving the same fraudulent medical evaluations and legal documents. Mr. Garrett Wellington is now the primary suspect in a statewide elder abuse conspiracy." Autumn was crying. Garrett was hyperventilating. Dr. Hammond was demanding to call his lawyer. Attorney Brooks was claiming he'd been misled about my mental capacity. Commissioner Torres approached me as the arrest continued. "Wellington, this case is going to protect dozens of other families. Thank you for having the patience to build such a comprehensive case." As they led Garrett away in handcuffs, he finally looked at me with complete understanding. "Dad, I'm sorry. If I had known..." "Known what, Garrett? That I own property? Or that elder abuse is illegal regardless of how much money you think you can steal?" He couldn't answer because he knew the truth. He hadn't abandoned me because he thought I was confused or unsafe. He'd abandoned me because he wanted my house and thought I was too weak to stop him. But the best part was yet to come. You won't believe what happened next. 6 months later, Garrett called me from county jail where he was awaiting trial. "Dad, please. I'll do anything to make this right. Drop the charges and I'll pay you back every penny." "Pay me back with what money, Garrett?" The court froze all your assets as proceeds from elder abuse. The vacation home, the luxury car, the debt payments, all of it has to be returned. "I'll work for the rest of my life to pay you back." "Garrett, you stole $340,000 from your father and abandoned him to die alone. The money was never the real crime." There was a long silence on the phone. "I know I made a terrible mistake, Dad, but I'm your son. Doesn't that mean anything?" It meant everything to me. That's why this hurts so much. Garrett started crying. "Please, Dad, I have 2 sons. What would it take for you to forgive me?" I thought carefully before answering. "Garrett, Forgiveness isn't about dropping criminal charges. Elder abuse laws exist to protect vulnerable people from exactly what you did to me. If I let you escape consequences, you'll do this to someone else's father. I would never. You did it to your own father, Garrett. Why would a stranger's father be safer? The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming, and Garrett's defense attorney advised him to accept a plea bargain rather than risk a longer sentence. Garrett pled guilty to elder abuse and fraud charges, receiving 5 years in prison and lifetime prohibition for managing anyone else's financial or medical affairs. Dr. Hammond lost his medical license and received 3 years. Attorney Brooks was disbarred and received 2 years. More importantly, their case led to new state laws requiring additional oversight for nursing home admissions and power of attorney documents. Autumn did file for divorce, citing the shame of being married to someone who would abuse his own father. The twins were too young to understand the details, but they were old enough to know their father had done something terrible to Grandpa. Today, I still live at Oakland Gardens, not as an abandoned resident, but as an owner who enjoys the community and activities. I've made genuine friendships with other residents and staff members who appreciate my presence rather than trying to steal from me. The house Garrett sold has been repurchased with the recovered stolen money and turned into a resource center for families dealing with elder abuse. Most importantly, I've learned to distinguish between people who love me and people who love what they think I can give them. 2 years later, I received a letter from Garrett in prison. He'd spent his time learning about elder abuse and helping other inmates reconnect with families they'd hurt through addiction or crime. Dad, I finally understand what I took from you. Not just money or property, but trust, respect, and the relationship we'd built over 72 years. I know I can never earn that back, but I hope someday you'll believe that I've learned who I really want to be. The lesson? Family relationships built over decades can be destroyed in minutes by greed, but consequences for elder abuse last much longer than the stolen money. If you enjoyed seeing this entitled son get exactly what he deserved, you'll love tomorrow's story about a man whose family called his car embarrassing junk until the Barrett-Jackson auction revealed it's worth $500,000. What's the worst family betrayal you've ever witnessed? Share your stories in the comments. Justice always finds a way.
If this story got you thinking, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that hit deep, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this one, share it with them. Thanks for watching.